Oliver Bearman hit the barriers at Suzuka's Spoon Curve with a recorded force of 50 G. He hadn't touched the brakes. He hadn't made an error. He simply ran out of track because a car was closing on him at 50 kilometers per hour faster, and the 2026 regulations made it inevitable. That crash turned a rule debate into a safety emergency. It forced the FIA into an emergency meeting in London, and what came out of that room is now reshaping Formula One before the cars even reach Miami. Kimi Antonelli leads the 2026 Drivers' Championship after winning the Japanese Grand Prix for Mercedes. The Silver Arrows also lead the constructors' standings. At the other end of the grid, Max Verstappen sits ninth with just 8 points after 3 races. A 4-time world champion in a car the Red Bull camp considers among the worst they have produced under the current formula. That gap is not simply about car development. It traces directly to how the 2026 power units behave. These cars run on a near 50/50 split between the combustion engine and the electric motor. A design intended to push the sport towards sustainable technology. What it has produced on track is something no one fully anticipated. Cars reach their top speed mid-straight, then slow by up to 56 kilometers per hour before the driver even applies the brakes. The battery runs out of recoverable energy, the engine note fades, and any car running behind in deployment mode closes its speeds with no place in modern racing. Haas team principal Ayao Komatsu confirmed it plainly after Suzuka. This has been a really unfortunate result of a massive delta speed we've not seen before in F1 until these new regulations. The FIA itself acknowledged the root cause in its official post-race statement, confirming that the contribution of high closing speeds was a direct factor in Bearman's accident. The first formal admission that the regulations had produced a structural safety risk. On April 9th, the FIA called a technical advisory committee session in London. The room held technical directors and engineers from all 11 teams, every power unit manufacturer, and the FIA's single-seater technical group. Team principals were deliberately kept out. This was built as an engineering meeting, not a political one. The official statement that followed was carefully worded. The FIA confirmed, it was generally agreed that although the events to date have provided exciting racing, there was a commitment to making tweaks to some aspects of the regulations in the area of energy management. The word chosen was tweaks. After a 50G crash and near-universal driver criticism, the governing body used the softest language available. But behind that careful wording, 6 concrete fixes are now on the table. The timeline is aggressive. April 15th sets the legal path for mid-season rule changes. April 16th brings a follow-up technical session using simulation data from all teams. April 20th is the decisive moment. Team principals, FIA leadership, Formula One management, and all manufacturer representatives in one room, followed by a formal vote. The target: new rules in place before the Miami Grand Prix on May 3rd. That is 11 days from emergency meeting to rewritten regulations. 6 solutions are now under serious consideration. Each one would change who wins and who loses. Fix 1 targets superclipping. When a driver has the throttle fully open, harvesting power is currently capped at 250 kilowatts. The proposal raises that to 350 kilowatts, matching the limit available during lift and coast. Drivers would no longer need to back off to collect energy efficiently. The closing speed gap that produced the Bearman crash narrows sharply. Fix 2 takes the opposite approach, cutting peak electric motor output below its current 350 kilowatt ceiling. It reduces top speed slightly, but spreads energy delivery more evenly across the straight, eliminating the sudden power drop-off where cars visibly decelerate mid-corner. Fix 3 reduces recharge limits. According to Formula1.com, qualifying energy recovery was already cut from 9 megajoules to 8 megajoules before Suzuka. The proposal now goes further, potentially down to 6 megajoules per lap. Less energy recovered means less energy deployed and a smaller role for the electric motor. The trade-off is real. Dropping to 7 megajoules alone would add roughly 1 second to lap times. Fix 4 opens active aero in qualifying. Currently, the movable wings can only switch to low-drag straight mode in FIA-designated zones. The proposal lets drivers activate straight mode freely throughout a qualifying lap, returning raw car speed and driver skill to the center of the lap time equation. Fix 5 cannot happen in 2026. Raising the petrol engine's power share through higher fuel flow rates requires changes to sealed power unit hardware that was locked in before the season. This fix is already being positioned for 2027. Fix 6 targets software complexity. As Formula1.com reported, Charles Leclerc's qualifying lap in China was derailed when his Ferrari's energy management software misread its own state during a brief throttle lift. Burning battery in the wrong part of the track. That software lottery has made qualifying preparation a guessing game. Simplifying these rules hands drivers more direct control and returns the session to what it is supposed to be. Understanding the politics is essential to understanding what actually survives the April 20th vote. Mercedes has won all 3 opening races and leads the Constructors' Championship by 45 points. Their entire car is optimized for the current energy management framework. As Sky Sports F1 reported, the position from the Mercedes camp has been consistent. Qualifying needs fixing, but the broader package is fine-tuning, not a fundamental rethink. Any rule change that reduces the electric motor's role risks wiping out months of work overnight. Ferrari is in the same camp, competitive at the front through 3 rounds. The view from Maranello is straightforward. Any fix that closes the midfield to the frontrunners is a competitive weapon dressed up as a safety measure. On the other side, Haas has pushed hardest for urgent action. McLaren has anchored its case entirely on safety rather than performance, a position that carries particular weight. As Formula1.com confirmed, McLaren had specifically predicted the type of crash that occurred at Suzuka during pre-season testing. Then there is the manufacturer dimension no team can override. Audi entered Formula 1 specifically because of the 2026 electric power focus. Honda returned as a standalone manufacturer for the same reason. Ford joined with Red Bull partly on the promise of a near-equal combustion electric split. Any significant rollback toward engine power threatens the commercial and marketing foundations that brought these manufacturers into the sport. As ESPN's Formula 1 coverage noted, that kind of corporate pressure reaches the highest levels, and it limits how far the regulations can swing back toward petrol power, at least within 2026. The driver dimension adds its own weight to everything above. Reports from Dutch media have indicated that Max Verstappen is weighing a departure from Formula 1 or a sabbatical at the end of 2026 if the regulations do not produce meaningful change. His Red Bull contract contains a performance clause that could facilitate an early exit. Neither Verstappen nor Red Bull have denied the reports. What Verstappen wants from the fixes is specific, cuts to electric motor power and recharge limits, the changes that pull the electric system back from equal partner to a supporting role. His position, stated across multiple interviews this season, is clear. Formula 1 should not feel like Formula E. The Grand Prix Drivers Association has added its own warning, stating publicly that some teams will resist real change because of competitive interests, and that safety cannot be used as cover for protecting a championship lead. If the April 20th vote produces no meaningful result, Miami runs under the same conditions that caused the spoon curve crash. Monaco, Baku, and Las Vegas remain on the calendar. Street circuits lined with concrete walls where a 50 kilometers per hour closing speed differential becomes genuinely life-threatening. 3 races into 2026, Formula 1 is navigating a challenge that cuts across safety, technology, competitive politics, and the long-term identity of the sport itself. The most likely outcome from April 20th is a measured compromise. The super clipping increase and software simplification carry the broadest support because they address safety without dramatically reshuffling competitive order. The recharge limit cuts and power reductions remain the most fiercely contested because they directly determine how large a role the electric motor plays in deciding a world championship. What comes out of that vote will shape not just Miami, but where Formula 1 stands for the rest of this decade.